Hi everyone, I'm your host Matt Salem, and you've tuned in to another episode of Our Best Behavior, brought to you by Behaviorally. We are the global digital-first leader in providing data intelligence through our AI and tech-enabled product stack to help brands own the most valuable moment in marketing, the purchase transaction. We are Behaviorally, the transaction experts. Each episode, we share insights on trending topics within our industry and of interest to our customers. Today, we're joined by Ari Popper, founder and CEO at SciFutures, to discuss how AI is reshaping industries, organizations, and individual lives, unlocking a world of possibilities beyond imagination. From automating tasks to unleashing innovative solutions, AI brings unparalleled efficiency and ingenuity as it empowers smarter decisions, fuels growth, and fosters a culture of progress. Ari, welcome back. Really good to be with you again.
Great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on today. It's been a couple months since we last connected. Maybe an email here or there in between, but certainly since the last podcast that you so kindly came on and gracious here on my end. Graciously, you've accepted to come back, I should say, and I'm grateful for that on my end. So thank you. Previously when you were on with us, we talked about really a follow up to a conference that you took a lead part in that we had hosted in New York City. And that conference really focused on a couple of key themes, including what you brought to the table as the business to algorithm model and AI agents and conversation around how in the future, maybe one day while I'm recording this podcast, my bot is at my desk conducting work on my behalf. So, where has that gone and where are we now? How has the landscape changed? Because AI moves so fast and it changes so rapidly.
Yeah, I think it's it hasn't been that large amount of time since we last spoke, and I think the landscape's changed a lot. Maybe not necessarily in the agent space, although there have been some really interesting developments I shared on my LinkedIn. It's quite a cool use case where somebody's literally talking to their desktop, literally using voice commands, and their desktop is basically working remotely. Um, you know, Writing emails, surfing the internet, looking up information just through voice control. And I think that's a really important signal showing us the power of agents, where we basically could use voice commands to basically get these algorithms to do whatever we want them to do on our behalf. But I think where it becomes really interesting is when that starts to happen autonomously in the background. And that's the future that I think is coming, where we'll have synthetic agents representing us, doing our bidding while we sleep, and talking to other algorithms, whether it's a company algorithm or another person's algorithm. So this kind of bot to bot, algorithm to algorithm economy is coming fast. I think that's the signals are happening. So that's been a change. On our side, I've spent a lot of time since we've spoken, really looking hard at synthetic data, really understanding the state of the market, the industry, what it can do, its capabilities today, and where it's heading. And I think that's fascinating too, particularly for the consumer insights industry and audience. So that's been really interesting.
Yeah, let's delve into that topic. So synthetic data. I mean,
Yeah.
talk to our audience a bit about, let's start with what is synthetic data, but then from there, where are
Yeah.
you seeing it being used most? What are you hearing in terms of businesses leveraging it?
Yeah, so I think the definition of synthetic data. I actually pulled one up because I think it's a really interesting definition. Let me see if I can open it up,
Okay.
um, and I can literally read it because I think it's a really good one. Let's see if I
So,
can
so
pull it
your
up.
bot's not ready to read that for you at the moment.
I wish it was. Where is it? Here it
I'm ready
is.
for like a Neuralink implant in my brain to control my computer. Forget talking to it. I
Yeah,
just want to think about it and control it.
yeah. I think that's happening. Pretty fast. I can't find it, but basically the idea is that what synthetic data allows us to do is to enrich data sets that have low or incomplete data, replicate data sets, enrich algorithms, and improve the accuracy of models, predictive models, and other types of models. And ultimately, it also allows us to create synthetic customers, and so doing research without respondents. Um, And that's kind of what we've been looking at. The primary use cases right now, as far as I can tell, for synthetic data is around handling the issue of PII and regulation. So obviously, it's consumer data is protected, and how we move that data around is protected and regulated. But synthetic data enables you to create essentially versions of that data that are structurally similar or identical, but not completely different data. So you can do whatever you want with that data, and that speeds up innovation. It speeds out experimentation. So that's the primary use case. I think is kind of the ethical kind of regulatory way to handle data. Also, it's primarily being used, as I was saying, to improve the accuracy of data models and prediction algorithms. So there's this great use case. I might have mentioned this on our podcast before, but um, brain tumors. That data for brain disease, there aren't that many brain tumors, but with synthetic data, what you can do is create artificial brain tumors and put that into your prediction data set, and then be able to predict a brain tumor much more accurately because synthetic data is enriched your original data set. So we love those use cases, and obviously market research and in consumer insights, that's a powerful use case to improve the accuracy of models. So yeah, so there's lots of companies getting around the PII side. There's a lot of SaaS models, enterprise models, and then in the research side of things, there are a few companies now just starting to get into research without the respondents. So, what if we had a consumer on our desktop or on our phone at any point in time, and we could just query them without having to write a survey and go out and field it and get the results and analyze them. So there are a few companies now that are starting to do that. And in my experience and analysis of them, it's still very early. There are some good ones, though. There are a couple of good ones. One in particular that's doing it, I think, very well. But apart from that, I think it's emerging. Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember talking with you around the idea of healthcare in particular and the impact that AI is going to have for the positive. And there's plenty of fodder around that on the internet, of course. But even just thinking about that use case versus market research, one question that comes to mind for me, which I often have posed to me from clients, is if I think about healthcare data, there's a lot of science and fact behind it, and perhaps lots of trials and kind of studies that have been conducted, etc. And when it comes to maybe, and I'm out of my realm here, but physiology and biology and such, I'm imagining things don't change once they figure out how it works per se. The body reacts the way it reacts or whatever it may be. But when it comes to marketing research, question I'm often posed is, well, hey, if we're building models and these models are predicting success based on what's been successful in the past, then how do I know that I'm not going to come up with something that the model thinks won't work because it's based all on past replications of success, yet in the future, the consumer mind state, the consumer behavior, preference, et cetera, can change. And that came to mind
Mm.
when I think about synthetic data. I could see that question being posed. And I'm wondering if you have a POV on that. I mean, from the consumer standpoint, it's as long as you keep talking to them, you could capture those changes, right? With synthetic
Yeah,
data,
I think that's a valid criticism, and I think in certain use cases that's true. Like, if market conditions change and consumer tastes change, but your model is based on historical data, then it'll be out of date or give you misleading information. And I think that's true. Like for certain use cases, it would be, but I think for others, in some instances, consumer behavior doesn't change that much, and particularly insights around that motivate people to act. Those primary insights are fairly stable over time. We know that our drives and our needs are fairly consistent, and even culturally consistent to some extent. So I think it just depends on the use case. But where I think what we're perhaps overlooking or underlooking is the potential for what we call zero shot, or kind of these generative capabilities that generative AI can do. So it's not just about historical data and modeling and predicting what's going to happen based on historical data. It's actually using these large language models to kind of tell us what might happen in the future, and kind of use the kind of transformer creative side, the hallucinatory side of these models to give us a sense of how things might change. And that's fascinating. And I think there still needs to be a lot of research done around that. But I think with the right prompts and with the right kind of structuring, you can get fresh insights, even if that data is based on historical trends and historical information. And I think that's the exciting part about the promise of the space, is really unlocking these kind of zero shot capabilities. Yeah, and I have a lot, I have a lot to say about how this could disrupt workflow, particularly for market researchers and consumer insights professionals, and the right way of using it, um, particularly today, and potentially where it's heading. And I think the model initially, when I was looking at it, is this a replacement for research, or is it a completely different way of doing things? But now I think what it really does is it gives us a way to do research differently, not necessarily replacing what we do, but really augmenting how we do research and using what these models are really good at, and kind of interjecting that into the process. And there, I think there's huge opportunities, for doing research differently, and much more efficiently, and also, more interestingly, frankly.
Well,
Yeah.
that's great input and
Mm.
great thoughts, and I think that
Yeah.
transitions well into another piece that I was hoping to cover with you today, which is when we
Yeah.
think about your company, SciFutures,
Mm.
it's molded around this notion of to help companies accelerate their preferred futures, and in thinking about ensuring that companies are ready for the future that is frankly now. How is SciFutures? How are you helping businesses think through being ready? AI, we said at the beginning, is constantly evolving. It moves quickly. So, what can be done and what should be done?
Yeah, well, I think the pain points that our clients are coming to us with are significant, and there are really three of them. The first one is, um, it's really complex. Like, AI is changing as we opened up the session. With, like, every day there's new announcements. It's hard to keep up. It's hard to understand the signal from the noise. So there's just so much information. So our clients don't know what's interesting, can't pass out. So what we do is we really help them manage that complexity, kind of give them a map with a flashlight, help them see through that. But that's part of the challenge. Even if you have a good sense of the landscape, the next part of the challenge is using that information in a way that moves your organization to do something about it. And so we've been doing this for over a decade now. Is these are the signals of the future that we've just helped you see. Now, how do you take those, that what inevitably could be the future, and how do you create a vision of your preferred future as an organization using storytelling? Because people won't act unless they feel. We know that from marketing, and we know that from market research. So how do we create well-informed, fact-based visions of the future that your organization can really resonate and feel, and empathize with, and go, oh yeah, I see it now, I feel it now. That's the future I want. So we help them develop those visions, and then we work backwards from that future to help them go out and prototype and actually build that future, so that it's not just, okay, we understand the landscape, we have a motivating vision that we really are inspired to build, but now what do we do about it? We actually help them prototype and go out and do proof of concepts and test that. And more recently, what we've been doing is teaching our clients the future's readiness skills. So, what are the 5 mindsets that we need, that executives in your company need, in order to really take advantage of AI at this time? And over the last decade, we've identified which organizations are good at that and what attributes they have in common, and which organizations struggle. And so we're doing a lot of training with our clients and helping them work through using examples of what it means to take advantage of AI using real business cases and applying these mindsets. So that's been great work. Really enjoy that work because it's really impactful on our clients. It really helps them. So those are the three key areas that we've been helping and working in.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
what do companies risk leaving behind if they're not well informed, if they're not thinking about this future?
I mean, it's a competitive edge. Like if you're not using AI right now, or playing with it, or understanding it, or experimenting, you're losing what is probably one of the most significant opportunities since the internet um, to kind of leapfrog, develop new processes, cut back on expenses and deliver on ROI that you've never had before. But it's not just about efficiency and cost saving. It really is an opportunity to do things completely differently and turbocharge your business. Um, and I think our clients are struggling with at least understanding that landscape and then getting what is a traditional organization motivated and inspired to go, oh, I see how AI can change customer service. I see how AI can optimize the way that we do advertising and research. So it's creating that unified vision and then getting them to experiment and basically do it. That's the pain point. So if people are listening to this podcast, if their organizations aren't doing that, then they are at risk of missing out on this incredible wave of innovation. Um, and I'm not saying we have all the answers. No one does because it's changing so quickly. Um, but some of these barriers that I was talking about, the pain points, we can help solve. So it's just like, what is the state of the landscape? And then what does this mean for our organization? If that's the landscape, what do we want to build? What future do we want to create? So even that alone is huge value,
Hmm.
particularly for traditional clients and conservative cultures. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah.
And thinking about behaviorally in particular and how we've transformed in recent years, and
Yeah.
now have really used AI to help innovate, to help provide clients with data insights that we've never been able to provide before. It's really been eye opening for me, for everyone in our business. And, I can see how if you're not starting to jump into the pool now, there's a lot that could potentially be missed. I mean, we're integrating AI into everything we do.
Mm.
We're seeing the ability to leverage data in ways that we hadn't before. It's very exciting time to be in marketing research. I wonder from your perspective, through the marketing research lens in particular, are
Mm.
there any other specific opportunities or challenges that you would point to with regard to the utilization of AI? I think there's some of the obvious with data privacy and such, and how do we make sure ideas stay in a closed system versus going out to everyone else and things of that nature. But any other
Mm.
thoughts that you would shout out in closing here?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some really low-hanging fruit opportunities with AI, and you've mentioned some of them. But just enriching data sets, privacy, improving accuracy of models. But I think where it gets really interesting is around the way research is done and the process of research. So even if these AI consumers aren't 100% accurate, and aren't directly replicating the studies that you would normally do, the synthetic, let's call them customers. The ability to get 80% there, 85% there instantly gives you a whole new framework for thinking about how you could do research. So you could iterate quickly using these synthetic data, improve your starting point, and then go into a study and get a much better result. And that's just understanding insights about consumers. You could also use AI, of course, to generate creative executions, campaigns, taglines, as you guys are doing, all the great work that you guys are doing. So what I haven't seen yet, and what I think I would love to work on with a client or even just in general, is when these tools, not if, but when these tools become ubiquitous, and I'm talking about in a research context, when they become ubiquitous and reliable enough, whatever that means, how will research that we know it today be different? What would be a research process that, whether it's to create a concept and test it, or to create a new ad campaign, or relaunch a brand? How would that fundamentally shift from the way it's done today? And I would love to see some speculative visions about the way research is done. Even in 5 years' time, I think that there's enough will change between now and then for it to be quite interesting. And for me, at least, the organizations that are thinking about that now and preparing for that now are the ones that are going to have that competitive edge. They're going to develop that muscle memory, skating to where the hockey puck is going to be, not where it is now. And that's the sort of work I would love to do. So if any of your clients are listening to, or if anyone is listening to this who wants to do what is the vision of how research is done, I would love to help them with that, because I think it would be very interesting. And then you can work backwards from there and go, okay, if that's the future that we think is most likely to happen, what are the skill sets? What are the experience we need to do today? What are the initiatives we need to do? What type of skills do we need in our teams? What's the structure of teams? All of that, I think, is really important work and interesting work.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I love that. And I'm already starting to hear that type of sentiment from clients when we talk to them about AI-powered solutions. They want to understand how some of these new solutions fit within their current processes. And I think what you're doing is taking it to the next level and saying, well, what do the future processes look like? Let's figure out what that might be, and then work backwards from there to see what we need to do now to get there. So
exactly. And here's the thing that I don't think people realize: it's going to happen quicker than they expect. So there might be people listening to this going, yeah, but it's a few years out, and we'll catch up. No, like this, it's happening very, very fast, and you guys have pivoted very quickly. So anything you can do now to be ready for that, I think, would be extremely valuable.
Yeah, no, well said.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on today, Ari. I'm wondering.
Sure.
I think when we first spoke pre-record here, I was asking you about your travels over the past year. I think you said you hit 13 countries last year. Am I remembering correctly?
Yes.
Are you using AI to help with your travel itinerary? This is a burning question I have.
No.
No. Okay. All right. There could be some unlocked opportunity there. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, Ari, thank you very much for coming on today. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to Our Best Behavior, brought to you by Behaviorally. Again, thanking Ari, our guest, for his time today. Be sure to check out our previous episode with Ari and other episodes of Our Best Behavior podcast. And with that, we'll catch you next time.